Hey everybody, Adam from Atlas Gunworks. We're going to go through changing the RDS plate system here. So this one's got a RMR on it, and we're going to go back to an adjustable sight. But the RMR plate system we're pretty committed to. We've had this around for a bunch of years at this point, and this video is beginning of Q2 2022. So our plate system works great. The design's really smart, and James did that work for us, or a lot of that work, James and Joe. So it's worked for a long time. We're very committed to it. More and more, almost all the guns now have some kind of RDS system. So we're also going to make this a plate, or it is available to other gun builders out there, and we can do the slide cuts, and I believe the print's on the website, but it's available if you need it. So we're going to keep adding new plates for new optics as new optics are rolling out continuously. And then I'll flip over to the other camera here, but here's some R&D stuff you can see. We start with 3D printing and then start machining different plates, but there'll be some low fixed and higher fixed depending on your front sight height, and then a lower adjustables coming at some point as well. So always working on new stuff, but we're super committed to the RDS plate system, and the world is moving in that direction, of course. So I'm going to go through the details on how to change one of these and cover some of the finer points so that folks can do that on their own. It's not particularly difficult. There's a couple of things to know, so we'll cover those as we go through. Having the correct screws is probably the first one, and then having a decent set of tools is the other big part that makes a huge difference. So a lot of folks have got an old worn out Allen key where all the edges are gone. Those might get your screws out, but you might damage the screw so that we can't reuse the screw. So fresh screws a lot of times make sense as well. But good tools is a good place to start. So in this case, the top is a hex 2.5 millimeter. So I'm going to confirm that that's in there nice and tight. I've got my Weehaw kit here that we're testing. If we like these, we'll end up using these with all the guns. Or well, they'll be on the website for you to purchase, I should say. So remove this. Now the screw size is going to matter here. Most of the time we do not, and this is really important, we do not use the same screw thread as the sight would come with otherwise. So you want to look at the plate, and I'm going to show you that right now. So this says M4 by 07. So 07 is your thread pitch, M4 is your screw. So these are M4 screws. So there's a couple things that matter. They have to be the right length, of course, and then we need the right pitch. So ignore whatever you get from Trijicon. Those guys, a couple problems. One, they don't always use the best screws. The length is almost never right. And then they often change stuff up, and we don't know till it's too late. So we run our own pitch on the thread plate, on the plates, threading into them with the rear sight. So these are M4s. They're readily available at hardware stores typically if you wreck one or whatever, but they're also available on the website. So now I've got an RDS plate on the gun. You could shoot the gun like this. So if you really quickly wanted to go from an optics to an irons division for a 3-gun or something like that, you could pull it off and just run it with the fixed rear that's already on there. Life's good. But if you want to go to an adjustable rear sight, this won't fit, right? 2.5 millimeters, not the right size. I haven't done this in a minute, and I don't believe that this is a metric one. I'm almost certain it's a 564, which it is, right? 564s. Turn that one loose, turn this one loose. It's my first time using this little Weehaw kit, but it seems to be pretty cool. We're always trying to help you guys get the best tools. Now, one of the things to keep in mind here is that, and less so with the bit style here that are a little bit harder, but if you're using a traditional Allen key, and again, all this stuff's available on our website, the traditional Allen keys that cost $1, once this edges of the or the sharp edges start to get rounded out, we just throw them out, right? It's $1 part. Plate comes off, and then you'll see underneath here that the reason we set this up is these two posts are pretty rugged, and we do a pretty amazing job of precision machining these. So what I need to not have is any back and forth. That's how the screws end up breaking. We've never had a plate fail yet, so in the many years at this point in service. So the plate system's off. If you want to go to a different red dot, it's going to be different. It potentially is different screws in these holes. And you can see this one's actually tapped for two different sites, the RMR and the SRO. And they in fact do share screws, but it will tell you what this is going to be. So if it, and there's one or two cases where they do use a factory screw, but it'll tell you the thread pitch. So and they should come with the as well. If you ever needed to do it, you can remove, I think this is a T9. You can remove the rear sight. It is not a T9. We'll find out what it is, T8. But typically people leave those on there. This needs to have red Loctite in the back here. If I was remounting this plate, I would blue Loctite these two, and then I would blue Loctite these two as well. And we'll get to where we're doing that. So same thing. This is the same reverse. So I'm going to get the same fitment here on this plate, and then I've got two screws. These screws, because they for aesthetics would are not the same head type, and so they use a different pitch. The perfect screwdriver for this is called a 10 IP. You can use a 10 torque, and it's a little bit loose in there, but it does work. I'm going to put these back on with blue Loctite as well. We're not finished this gun, but just a dab of blue, and too much and you're going to hate taking it off, and not enough you're going to be potentially angry when it's a little bit loose. Generically, the test for these is to go shoot once or twice, and then just come back and you check, with a little bit of tension, and see if they're a little bit loose, then your Loctite didn't do what it was supposed to do. And so the best thing to do, and we sell these again on the website, sounds like a sales pitch on this video, but with the right tools make a big difference. These are torque limiters in inch-pounds. 18's the number we like for this. So I'm going to take a 10, and then these are going to limit out and right when I hit 18. So turn, 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 boom, done. Turn, 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 boom, done. Over tightening them is going to strip screws and or potentially break screws and cause problems. Under tightening is going to potentially get loose quick. Loctite does its job if everything's right. So the right amount of Loctite, the Loctite's in good shape, it's not too old, it did get contaminated, blah, blah, blah. So getting the right inch-pounds and the right dab of Loctite is a big deal. So I think I do have Loctite potentially in this toolbox. If I do, we'll put some on. I do. So we'll take one of these screws out. So again, I'm turning this, it breaks free. That's the, I guess, and it helps if you have a ratchet with a torque limiter or whatever, but let's say we're doing this with just this or an Allen key. I don't give it the full pressure go one, right? I'm turn, 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 it starts to loosen up. Again, these torque ones are a lot better than the Allens typically in that fashion, but still you can strip them. So the appropriate amount of Loctite's a little bit tricky sometimes. So this Loctite, and you can see it's been sitting. This is actually a great way to do this. This has been sitting, so all that liquid on top is one of the chemicals, but not all of them. And so it needs to be a little bit goopy. So that was a fail. That Loctite, if you put it on and it just wicked off like that as a liquid, it's not going to work. This is old. I'm sure this Loctite doesn't work like it's supposed to, but it should help us for the video. So that's pretty good. So I like to get a coating that's all the way around half or 2/3 of the screw, and then I let it sit for a minute and kind of wick into the threads, and then I would start that with my finger, make sure I wiped off any extra, and then I'm going to start it with a screwdriver like this. On something like this, I'm going to take it, snug tight, and then I'm going to come back with something with hopefully a torque limiter on it, and boom, 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 I'm done. That's going to hold up, assuming the Loctite does its job. And so the combination, there's two parts to this. The combination of you giving it the right amount of torque, not too much, not too little, and then having a decent Loctite that's fresh, and applying it in, a half to and maybe even a 1/3 to a 2/3, depending on what your application is. But that's the combination to get things to not come loose. Keep in mind that this is a pretty violent motion when the gun comes back, so we need those to be tight and work. But it's one of those things where, you know, I don't clean the guns a ton, so I might do 2 or 3 range sessions and not clean anything. But if I just remounted one of these, I'd check it 2 times, and then I'd probably call it pretty confident that it's good to go. So they're switching your sights back and forth, proper screws, proper equipment, and a little bit of Loctite, and life's good. They should stay on there for a very long time until you need to take them off. Hope to see you guys on the range soon.